Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome to another video game impression. Today we're going to be looking at Fire Emblem. Oh, Fire Emblem Fates, one of my favorite. So seriously, I actually, if you guys don't know, besides Persona, besides the other stuff that I've mentioned on my channel that I love so much, I love Fire Emblem. I've always been a die-hard Fire Emblem fan. Um, as I got older, I got more into the Fire Emblem series. But when I was younger, I played every Fire Emblem I can get my hands on. And what's unfortunate is I sold a lot of them. Some of them were really hard to find Fire Emblem games. I sold them when I was younger because I just didn't understand, the value of games and stuff like that. But as I got an adult, I now beat myself over the head with it because I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? I sold so many Fire Emblem games. Anyways, it's okay though. That's in the past. Anyways, Fire Emblem Fates is actually a pretty cool concept. Instead of your typical Fire Emblem game where you just have like Fire Emblem Awakening, for example, what they actually did now is almost something like, akin to like a Pokemon type game where you don't get just one game, you get two. But unlike Pokemon, this is not just a simple, oh, there's a few more new Pokemon and there's a few different areas you go to. Fire Emblem Fates is actually split into two things: Birthright and Conquest. Now, Birthright is essentially the storyline that's easier for like newbies to go into. It's the concept of there's more areas to level grind. You're not gonna bound to like going from level to level, staying with whatever cast of characters you have maxed out so far. Conquest, on the other hand, though, is the harder one, which is the one that's meant to be, less level grindy. It's more meant to be akin to the original Fire Emblem games. And there is a third one, Revelations, but unfortunately, I don't have access to that yet because I only got the bundle between the both of these. Revelations was the kind of thing that you can get early if you got the special edition, which came with all three games on one cartridge. But I'll get into it. I promise I'll get into impressions on that when I get it. So trust me, it's coming out. It'll probably be out March 10th, I believe. So figure it'll be March like 12th. It'll be out for me because Fire Emblem is something I play like religiously. I'm playing it right now on my breaks while I'm editing these videos. I'm playing it. Now let's talk more about Fire Emblem Fates though. What's different about it than other Fire Emblem games? Well, like I said before, this is actually split into two games, Birthright and Conquest. Now what's funny about Birthright is that it's the concept of you as a prince were taken from your family. Now you have the Hoshidos, which are your actual birthplace, like that's your birthright, so that's why it's called Birthright. And then you have Conquest aside called the Nor, which is the people who abducted you and took you in. Now the Nor family though that took you in cares for you a lot. They care for you like you're their own brother, and they always treated you very well despite you having to live a kind of sheltered life in a tower essentially by your father, who's an evil guy in this game. But he's also the king, by the way, mind you. And they treated you very right. They treated you very well. They loved you and showered you with whatever affection they could find for you. The Birthright, they don't know who you are besides them being your brother. They know you're the brother. They know you're the actual birthright of that place. They know they want you back because they loved you when you were younger. But it's where the game splits, because actually here's the cool thing. So if you buy individual, like if you buy Conquest or Birthright, you gotta get locked into whatever storyline you bought. So if you buy the Conquest one, you have to side with the Nords, which is siding with the family that abducted you essentially. If you bought the Birthright, you're sided with the people who are your actual, birthright. Now, what's funny though is if you buy the bundle, which is really a good idea, I highly suggest it. You actually only pay $20 more for the game, and you download it directly to your 3DS. And what it actually will do is it will actually open up after a certain point of the game the choice where you can go back to that moment of choice. Like you could choose actually who you want to be with. Do you want to be the Birthright people, or do you want to be with Nor people? And which is from Conquest. What's really cool about that is I actually dig that concept. I think there was a great idea on Fire Emblem's concept where they allowed you to choose which side you want to be on, because there really is a very vast story difference between the two. But even that also, it's the gameplay that's going to change the most. Like I said, Fire Emblem is your typical tactical-based RPG type thing where you move characters, on a grid-based thing. Each person has their turns and stuff like that. But what's cool about both of them is that it's one more akin to kind of a newcomer of Fire Emblem, and one is more akin to the veterans of it. So if you want, the really hard one, you want to go with Conquest, because that is, I'll tell you right now, I've died 1,000,001 times. I've had to reset the game. I've basically screamed my game like 3 or 4 dozen times already. Birthright is basically just a sleep fest for me because I love the game, but I also think it's way too easy to be able to level grind everywhere you go. So I have a guy at level 10 that's almost maxed out already. That's just how Fire Emblem games work. And Awakening's biggest issue was that, because you can go around and kind of level grind off certain areas, but it's not a big deal. You can always make the game harder if you think Birthright's too easy. There's many many different difficulty settings now. There's also normal, there's hard, there's, I think it's sane is called one of them, where it's essentially every turn they're going to be like, it's going to come down to just your choice of what weapon you're specifically using, where you're placed, and everything. That is really hard. I tried it sane. I couldn't even get past like the first 2 stages. It's so brutal. Oh god, it's so brutal. Returning also is the ability to turn off permadeath, which is the concept of you actually have your characters killed off permanently. You can turn it off and go for an easier route where, you know, after the level they come back to life. But there's even an easier route, if you want, called Phoenix mode, which allows you that if a person goes down during that turn, they're revived automatically with full health the next turn. This is more so for people who love storylines that don't really care for challenges, because essentially enabling this mode makes the game a joke. I mean, it's just where a character dies and then they just come back the next turn. It's like, oh, I'm back. You know, it makes it really, really a joke. But again, you know, if you want the story, you want to focus on that, no big deal. It's not like it's a big, you know, it's like, oh, you're such a bad person for doing that. Hey, that's why it's in the game. It's, you know, gearing toward the people who want to be simpler and you know, how they play the game. Now, you know, if you guys notice, I didn't have too many images on here because honestly, Fire Emblem, you know what to expect of it. It has the kind of little sprite characters that become full size when you actually are engaging combat. So it's really nothing that you can't fathom around. And I really don't want to put a whole bunch of images like I usually do, because I think I want to focus with these impressions just talking about the games and talk about what my feelings are for them rather than showing off a bunch of the images for it. I'll do that with like stuff like you have no idea what it looks like, stuff like that's more obscure, I'll put the images in. But for stuff like Fire Emblem, you already know what Fire Emblem looks like. It hasn't changed in the way it looks and the kind of dynamics of the game. There are some new stuff in Fire Emblem. There is the castle mode where you can actually make your own little towns, and you can actually put like different shops and different vendors and stuff in them. You can actually go to other people's worlds, check out their castles, invade their castles, vice versa. They can invade you. That isn't done very well, actually. That's not proper English either. That's not done very well. That's the system of the castle invasion stuff is not, I don't think, done very well. It could have been done a lot better if they would actually maybe made, I think, more consequence for having places in your village actually destroyed. But if you actually win the battle, nothing happens with your village. Like, even if they just smash every building, but you somehow still win, there's no consequence whatsoever. It's just you can just rebuild it later on. You know, you don't have to do that. You don't actually have to rebuild anything. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. But if you lose, that's where you have to rebuild stuff. Then it's destroyed, and you have to go back and rebuild it, all that stuff, and spend the resources on it. So I mean, it could have been done a little better, but it's not. It's still a cool idea, and hopefully next game it will be kind of more fleshed out. Now, overall, I'm not done with either one yet. I'm still playing through Conquest. I'm on chapter 20, I believe, right now of that. And on Birthright, I'm only chapter 11 or 12, I believe. But I really think that these games are awesome. I really think that highly recommend you buying the bundle, which is, you know, you buy one game and you get the other one 50% off essentially, because one game is going to cost you $40, but if you buy the bundle, it'll cost you $20 for the other one. So this way you save some money. And also, having both the game digitally and having it on the actual cartridge is a good idea, because it actually allows you to make that choice in the game of choosing between them. You don't have to switch out cartridges, because if you do buy them individually, so if you want those physical copies of the game, note that if you ever want to switch between the sides, you have to then switch the cartridge out. If you don't actually have it like where you have it downloaded first, if you have it downloaded, I should say, then you can actually just simply go, I'm gonna play this one instead. So I mean, it's kind of cool. I know people want the physical copy. I'm like that myself. But if you just choose the one you want mostly and then have the other one be a digital, I think it works a lot better. Think of it almost like DLC, and that I think that takes away the pain of it a little bit. Overall, so far, I'm really digging Fire Emblem Fates. I can go on all day about it, but I'm not going to do that because I want to keep these things kind of short. So definitely check it out. I definitely say would buy it. Like, I mean, I don't hesitate at all. Fire Emblem games are awesome. This is no exception. This is probably one of my favorite Fire Emblem games to come out in the recent time. And you guys will like it. Trust me, you will really enjoy it if you love Fire Emblem. Have a good one, everyone. I'll talk to you guys later. Please subscribe, like, comment, you know, the typical stuff that I always ask you to do. And have a good one, like I said before. I don't know why I always repeat my endings. I gotta really figure out a way not to repeat my endings so often. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.